We all long for happiness. It's the thing we most dream for.
Hail to the altruistic revolution. Let's go for it.
Now the first exercise is just going to get us ready for the big finale.
Good afternoon. How good's this? Isn't it awesome? Who's been looking forward to this for ages? Oh, fantastic. Quick straw poll. Who's got kids? Put your hand up if you have kids. Leave your hand up if when you had your kids, you had a birthing plan. Leave your hand up if your birth went exactly like your birthing plan. Crowd this size is usually 3 or 4. Now, my wife's a nurse, accident emergency nurse. So her birthing plan was no doctors, don't want any doctors, no medical intervention. So we were booked into the midwife-led unit next to the hospital, attached to the hospital, but not in the hospital. We were booked into like the birthing pool. My wife had been doing the meditation for birthing. You know, there were dream catchers up on the wall. There were like electric candles so the gas wouldn't explode. You know, and so we turn up at the hospital. We have enough food to last 3 days, and we have enough Enya to last a week. You know, because my wife just loves Enya, and I just hate Enya, you know, but it's totally her show, absolutely her show, 100%. Let's bring those 37 Enya CDs, my darling, no problem at all. So we get to the hospital within 15 minutes of being there, sadly, undiagnosed breech baby. So the baby is the right way up instead of upside down. So within 45 minutes of getting to the hospital, my wife is numb from the chest down and the surgeon's about to open her up and do an emergency Caesar. Now, I think the anaesthetist could tell that she was a bit upset by this. So he leaned down and whispers into my wife, she says, "Oh, Mrs. Wilson, would you like me to turn the radio on? Would you like some music during the procedure?" My wife looks up at me with this earnest, angelic look in her eyes and just said, "Wouldn't it be a sign if Enya came on the radio?" And again, like, I'm not an idiot. I'm just like, "Yes, darling, it would." So my wife was hoping for a bit of this. This song, at this point in the song, is what came out of the stereo.
First cut is the deepest. Baby, I know the first cut is the deepest.
Now, in that moment, we had a choice. We could have exploded into anger. We could have dissolved into tears. But we locked eyes and we chose to laugh. We stumbled on this incredibly powerful way to stay resilient through the tough times that came up again and again and again as I was interviewing people for this What I Wish I Knew book series that I've got out there, where I asked people, if you could go back and give your younger self one bit of advice, what would it be? And for this series, I've interviewed over 1,000 amazing people from all around the world. You know, I've interviewed international sportsmen and women to a Buddhist nun who works with prisoners on death row in Los Angeles, the Venerable Rabina Corton, who's been here a couple of times. I've interviewed international comedians the world over, through to a man who survived the horrors of 9/11. And when you interview that many people about how to do life well, how to get to the end of your days and be sitting on a park bench, arm in arm with someone you adore, looking back on your life with a big, happy, satisfied smile instead of a heart full of regrets, one thought keeps coming up again and again and again. And it's just this: lighten up. We all get so serious, don't we? Everyone I've spoken to for my book series says, if you'll laugh about it on your 80th birthday, start laughing about it now. And it naturally fits in with what we all know instinctively, doesn't it? Like, you go on those dating websites like eHarmony and that sort of thing. What's the one thing everybody says their prospective partner simply must have? Apparently. GSOH, good sense of humour. We all desperately, we're all incredibly attracted towards people who have a good sense of humour. And research has shown, and that's because they usually have a very deep sense of personal well-being, and they're very calm, stable, have a fair bit of inner peace going on. So the thought that I would like to present to you guys today is that we should all take a more deliberate approach to creating humour in our lives. Because we all walk through life and we appreciate and love the magic of humour when we stumble into it. But if you look at the benefits to your resilience, your business, your health, your happiness, we should all more consciously try to create humour in our lives. We should all take funny seriously. Now, I know this is happiness and its causes. You don't want to hear about my anecdotal stories. You don't want to hear about my research. I know I need to show you the scientists. And there they are. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Working away. Bang, happier. Oh, look at that. Now, they've been researching this area for about 25, 30 years, and the evidence is mounting and mounting and mounting. If you deliberately cultivate a sense of humour, if you deliberately laugh at the things that are stressing you, if you deliberately make jokes about the things that are stressing you out, it helps you reappraise threats and reduce stress. It's like it flicks a switch in the back of your head that says, well, I must be bigger than that. I must have control over that if I can make fun of it. And that helps you increase your personal resilience, helps you bounce back more quickly. That helps facilitate psychological well-being. That helps you thrive and go through life a bit better. And that gives you greater positive affect. That's a psychological term for happier, more cheerful. And that's what we're here for. Now, am I saying that deliberately, looking for the chuckles is better than all the other things you learnt today and all the things you will learn tomorrow? The gratitude journals, proper sleep, proper nutrition, meditation, all those things. Is looking for humour better than that? No, of course not. But it's a wonderful attitude you can lay down on top of all those other things. Like, when you're learning to meditate, it can be incredibly frustrating, can't it? As your mind wanders again and again and again. But meditation teachers the world over teach us to laugh at that wandering, or at least to smile at it kindly like you would a toddler, and gently bring your mind back to the practice. There's one other study that's had a profound effect on myself and my family, and that's this one. Deliberately cultivating a sense of humour has been shown to give you decreases in stress, depression and anxiety. My beautiful, wonderful, brave wife, Ali, she's up there, has had, and she doesn't mind me talking about this, has had an ongoing, as she calls it, dance with depression and anxiety all her life, to the point where she had crippling postnatal depression after all three of our children. And it got to the point where about 9 months after the birth of Charlie, the gorgeous little middle fella in there, about 9 months after his birth, I came home and over the dinner table, Ali burst into tears and slid across the table to me the goodbye letters that she'd written to myself and all three of our boys separately. Now, there's two parts to this that I want to talk about. Very quickly, I want to cover off how those 3 episodes of depression affected me. The first time, I was a full-time stand-up comic working in the UK. I was there for 8 years. And I handled her depression reasonably well. The second time, I was just writing my books, and when Ali got depressed, I went right down with her. And at the time, I couldn't really understand why it affected me so deeply. The third time, when she showed me the letters, I was working what I do now. I'm a professional speaker and consultant, and I travel the world helping businesses increase the resilience of their people, especially through times of change. And there was this one particular after-dinner speech. I remember it was in San Francisco, and I remember this, where the crowd had laughed along with me for a good hour or so. I remember this exact moment in the green room afterwards, where I remember exactly where I was, where I had this aha moment, when your brain floods with those delightful chemicals. I had this incredible aha moment that my job now, just like when I was a stand-up comic, is an incredible boost to my psychological well-being. I think partly just standing in a room full of people laughing for an hour or 3, it's a lovely workplace environment. But more importantly, because I'm always looking for new material, new stories, that sort of thing, I'm constantly responding to the world, the news, my life with the question, what's funny about this? What's funny about this? What's funny about this? And that seemed to inoculate me against the devastating depression and the effects it was having on the woman I adore. But the second thing is how Ali navigated her way through this. See, after she showed me the letters, obviously there was some pretty brutal conversations and a lot of tears. And after a while I said, well, how can I help? And Ali went quiet for a little minute, and then she just said this. She just said, we don't laugh anymore. Because we used to be the couple that would go along to live comedy and deliberately make time to see funny movies. And we'd stopped scheduling funny into our lives. And so we started again. We started going along to live comedy, started recording shows like QI and Graham Norton from the UK, Saturday Night Live and Whose Line Is It Anyway from the US. We started asking friends and family, tell us some funny stories. What's going on funny in your life? And now every night over the dinner table, we ask our kids, what made you laugh today? And so, am I saying that, a few thigh-slapping chuckles cured Ali's depression? Of course not. She's done some work with an amazing psychologist. She's been on medication a couple of times, like meditation. Sleep is a massive thing for her. Nutrition is a big thing for her. She does Pilates all the time. All these things combined have got her in a great space now. But the fact remains, Ali truly turned a corner when we started to take funny seriously. But I don't want you to think that this is only suitable for times of extreme resilience. It works even better for the day-to-day stuff. Like I travel the world helping companies, like I was saying, increase their people's resilience. And the thing that I see again and again and again, one of the biggest stressors in modern life is the continually accelerating pace of change. But the thing I get people to think about, and indeed even laugh about, is whining about change shows a deeply profound misunderstanding of the true nature of life. Who wants to be alive? Hands up if you want to be alive. Raise your hand if you won't raise your hand no matter what I asked up here today. A couple of guys at the back was going, nah. If you want to be alive, you have to accept this. This is the Oxford English Dictionary definition of the word life. The condition that distinguishes animals and plants from inorganic matter, including the capacity for growth, reproduction, functional activity, and continual change preceding death. Continual change till the day you die. Continual change. Like, get out your driver's license, have a look at it. The only reason you're here with us today is that you don't look that good anymore. The best way to tell how your brain is handling the true nature of life is ask yourself this: who gets into a bit of road rage? Be honest, who gets into a bit of road rage? Being in your car is the perfect metaphor for how your brain handles the true nature of life. Because when you're in your car, you are in complete control of this tiny little box just around you and nothing else. And all those people you're shouting at can't hear what you're saying and don't care anyway. Like this friend of mine used to go absolutely mad on the road rage, absolutely crazy for it, until he discovered this anger technique, and I'll share it with you today because it's all about dispersing the tension with humour. If you're getting stressed in the car, you can go nuts, you can abuse whoever you want, but you have to do it using old Broadway show tunes. Because there's only so angry you can get when you're in the car by yourself singing, "There's no dickhead like you, dickhead like no dickhead I know." And he demonstrated it for me, like we're driving along. Oh, thank you, friend. We're driving along, and we're driving through Sydney, up Pitt Street, for those who know it, and this guy in a Range Rover cut us off. You know, it's like typical inner city Sydney, like, buys the Range Rover so they can successfully navigate those treacherous leafy avenues of Mossman. Oh, love it, love it, love it. Simply murderous pothole in Lower Pumpernickel Mews. I'm guessing by the ill-ease in this room, there's a few here today. But I thought this mate of mine was going to go nuts. But he's just calmly got out of the car, looked across at me and just said, "West Side Story." He's gone like this guy, I swear, middle of Sydney, middle of the day, like this, just gone. "You make me sick in your four-wheel drive, dressed like a dick in your four-wheel drive, Timberland shirt in your four-wheel drive, but don't get no dirt on your four-wheel drive." Now, I thought to myself, I can do that. I was practicing at home, biding my time. About 2 weeks later, because like the guy got out of the car, they shook hands, had a big laugh, all the tension was dispersed. So I was practicing at home, biding my time. About 3 weeks later, driving a little boring man's Camry that I've got here, and this guy in a Saab just jammed the brakes on in front of me, almost run up his bum. My mate thinks I'm going to go crazy, but I've been rehearsing. I just calmly get out of the car, look across at him and just say, "Sound of Music." And I start walking up this guy in the Saab just going, "Bastards in Bentleys and cretins in Calais, biffing and barging and bashing in my way, driving like dickheads and cutting in front, Just like all Saab drivers, you are a huge Tongan who just beat the crap out of me. Everyone I've spoken to for my book series says, if you want to get to here, if you want to get to there and be looking back on your life, happy with the way you've spent it, you have to remember that life flies past so fast. In what seems like a moment, we go from here to here. So stop trying to control that big cascade of change that is out there and instead control how you handle it in here and in here. I love this quote. You cannot calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass. And I believe the best, or at least the most enjoyable in the moment way to do that is humour. And if you don't trust me by now, trust Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was the psychologist who wrote that book, Man's Search for Meaning. He wrote when he survived the Nazi concentration camps in World War II. And he said, in the middle of that horror, humour, more than anything else in the human makeup, can provide an aloofness and an ability to rise above any situation, even just for a few seconds. Your happiness is too important to take it too seriously. Love, relationships are too important to take them too seriously. Life is too important to take it too seriously. Please, please, take funny seriously. Thank you.